Welcome to another special report on South African pre-elections update. As the 2014 election is up in the offering for the nation to set the sail for a new chapter in the country's democracy, the natural question for many South Africans has been whether the ANC's current leadership can still be trusted. The opposition parties are aiming at gaining more seats in parliament, which may be a boost for the current number one opposition, the Democratic Alliance. Some political parties are even talking about coalition.
The Congress of the People, together with seven other parties in Parliament, have been in discussion since November 2011. A manifesto of commitments that we would like to put to the electorate, in which we say to them, on the basis of these commitments, if you give us your support in this election, we can promise you that we will put up administrations in any of the provinces and, if possible, even nationally, to fulfill these commitments, to transform your life and to advance the country towards a better future, as Nelson Mandela promised, a better life for all.
The main aims of the ANC include, inter alia, the liberation of all African people from both political and economic bondage, and the creation of an inclusive, democratic society. Can the party convince millions of its supporters that it's still a party of choice?
The issue, is do we still continue with the rhetoric of liberation and so forth? Because delivering liberation can no longer be a promise, it is something of the past. But we need to look at the new promises of the ANC, which is economic freedom, economic liberation, education, and so forth. And I think as long as the ANC stays focused, and as difficult as that might seem, and as difficult as it has become for various reasons, if the ANC focuses on delivering its promises of its election campaigns, if it looks after security, education, health, then without a shadow of a doubt, it would be able, to a great extent at least, to convince its supporters that it is fulfilling what it has promised.
The clean record of achievements of the ANC is being marred by the ineptitude of the new leadership, leading many critics to question and challenge the relevance of the ANC in post-apartheid South Africa.
There is no doubt that the ANC has actually achieved a lot. If you take observation at the social security expenditure, is one of the most extensive, probably one of the few countries that spend so much in terms of GDP on social security, and also attempts to try to alleviate majority of black people out of poverty and restructuring the education system and ensuring access thereof. They are quite remarkable achievement thereof.
A recent report from Nomura Securities shows a drop in support, which Nomura says it would be as a result of the arrival of new political players such as Agang, South Africa, and the economic freedom fighters, as well as bonfires voting for the first time.
Generally, for the economic freedom fighters, what we have in store, it's something that South Africa has been yearning for, and not only South Africa, but Africa. Remember, political freedom started from the north, but we guarantee Africans that economic freedom will start from the south to the north, and that is us.
Political analysts have, however, cautioned against taking predictions, even those based on scientific polling seriously, this far from the elections. Previous elections had seen similar predictions of loss of support for the ANC, with outcomes that did not bear out.
I have no doubt there will be a drop on the margins when it comes to the support of the ANC. The question that I think is quite significant and need to be dealt with carefully is whether the strength of the opposition in South Africa is such that it can push the ANC for significant loss on the margins, or maybe to drop in what you would call your two-digit loss, your 10% and so. I'm not convinced that the opposition has got such kind of strength to be able to inflict such kind of loss at the ANC at the polls.
Even South Africa's president, Jacob Zuma, believes that ANC will, without a doubt, win the upcoming 2014 elections. But many analysts speculate that the newly formed Agang party will likely chop a chunk of the ANC's voter base, thereby weakening the party.
The tight competition within the opposition is certainly going to undermine the opposition's ability to actually bite a chunk out of the ANC's electoral hold. And the fact that even there is this diversity of opposition that is taking place, and you've got the EFF also expressing themselves in radical terms, it shows that there is no harmony or unity within the opposition. They're going to have to compete for the small slice that exist within the opposition camp. That competition, if it's too heightened, if it becomes too intense, it might actually help the ANC, where the ANC doesn't have to worry very much, as the opposition will be cancelling itself out as they are competing for the smaller slice.
All these political parties have done a very successful job in terms of discrediting themselves. The EFF is not going to play that role. Ours is to face the situation, what the people of South Africa are actually experiencing now. And the fact of the matter is that, like I indicated, firstly, the gap between the rich and the poor keeps on increasing. There is no access to water. There is no access to electricity, basic things. And if we talk about the provision of housing, you look at the previous apartheid government, we are not saying it was better, it was racist and brutal, but it built houses that we can somehow say at least they are better. They would provide you with a 4-roomed house. And when we were struggling to say we want to take over as a black nation and thrive and be champions of our own destiny, and when we take over this political power, it has to be transformed into the economic freedom or economic power, so that the lives of our people can be developed. So in terms of the EFF and our message, whether you like it or not, our people have spoken. When we made that call to say what needs to be done, our people answered and said EFF must become a political party which will contest the elections, because they believe that through these 7 cardinal pillars that are non-negotiable, particularly the expropriation of South Africa's land, because once you own the land, you own what is on top and underneath. And you can never claim to be a government whereas you don't own the means of production, you don't own the land. That is where life begins, that is where life ends. But currently you've got the government that is just the managers of these resources on behalf of Britain and the USA. Now we want to be, as a black nation, to say we want to govern ourselves, because these are our resources.
For some parties, such as Congress of the People, the road to the election is being marred by squabbles and factionalism, leaving a big division within the organization.
Well, we were disrupted by some developments earlier on in the last elections. This time, I think we are going to do much better. It's got to be kept in mind that by the time of the disruption of the party leadership in the past elections, we were already polling in the regions of 28% plus minus. And of course, when there was disruption of the leadership, those high polls plummeted. This time, with all the controversies behind us, especially with regard to the leadership, we feel confident that, in fact, our sense is that very many people are coming back in droves, now satisfied that there can be no challenge and questioning of the legitimacy of our leadership. But we are going further. We will be going to our first National Congress to ensure that we get elected, democratically elected leadership, so that we go into this election with a leadership that is elected and that cannot be challenged by anybody in our society.
Political parties have a big task in their hands: to convince thousands of their supporters why they should vote for them.